So we are now going.
Well,
are you good to start out here? You ready?
yeah, but you're going to have to intro it because since you're the one recording, you are, in a sense, the host of the show.
That's a good point. I didn't have an intro plan, though. I figured we could just jump right into the meaty stuff, but...
I was just thinking it's going to be like, hey, welcome to the Church of Klingberg. I'm blank. This is blank. And we're going to be talking about blank. Welcome to the Church of Klingberg. I'm blank. This is blank. And we're going to be talking about blank. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Hello. Welcome to the Church of Klingberg. My name is Carter. And on the other end of the Skype spectrum, I have my good friend, Tom Dorsa. Tom, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. As I gotta silence my phone now because I'm gonna keep getting notifications. Yeah,
might as well.
I'm doing good. I got some baseball on in the background. I'm enjoying a nice off day from work. We're gonna be talking some Ohtani today. That's correct?
Yeah. I mean, can't talk enough about that motherfucker.
Dude, I heard something yesterday where I can't remember the exact stat. This can't be correct, but somebody told me that he had become like the first hitter since Babe Ruth to like pitch a win and then hit a home run in a lineup within the same 48 hours.
Damn straight.
Babe Ruth,
yeah,
and everybody.
That's almost 100 years ago.
Yeah,
he's straight up revolutionizing the damn game.
Now, let me just say, as a fan of the most embarrassing franchise in Major League Baseball, the Texas Rangers, I fully expected us to go after Ohtani and to swing and miss, pun intended. But I have no qualms with him being on a division rival. He's going to be thoroughly fun to watch, really, for his entire career, and he's making baseball fun. You know, they got Mike Trout, they got Ohtani, they've got some likable players over in that organization. So, yeah.
I feel the same regarding him playing on a divisional rival, knowing that whether he's on the hill or in the batter's box, he might be hurting my favorite franchise. He might be scoring runs or preventing runs for my team and not, allowing them to win games, which is their goal. But the growth of the game of baseball is much more important. And to have a player who's playing two different positions successfully at the same time, regardless of the fact that he's an international player, which helps, grow the game overseas, it's more important for the bigger picture of the sport that I like. You know what I'm saying? It's like having Tim Tebow in the minor leagues.
Absolutely.
I don't really care for Tim Tebow. I don't think he really belongs in baseball, but knowing that he's popular and he's killing it in Double-A is good for the growth of the game because it brings in more fans that wouldn't otherwise be paying attention to baseball. Yeah. To the games, to the broadcasts of the games, and stuff like that.
Yeah, baseball hasn't had a superstar in I don't know how long. I can't remember the last time. I guess you could say Derek Jeter was the face of baseball during his career. I don't know if that's a fair proposition, but
I'd say it is.
I'm just tossing names out there.
Yeah, I mean, you had the Pujols run of the early 2000s up until when he washed up with the Cardinals and signed with the Angels. You have Jeter, of course, who won the World Series 5 times, won the Gold Glove 5 times, hit .314 for his whole career. He did it in the biggest market for the most popular team. But Ohtani is a completely different picture. Not only because with Pujols you had a power-hitting third baseman. With Jeter you had a contact-hitting shortstop who has got a decent glove. With Ohtani, you have a guy who does so many different things that, especially as a pitcher, because if you're watching a Clayton Kershaw or Justin Verlander, you only get to watch him one set of every 5 games.
Right.
With Ohtani, if you want to watch him, you might get to see him on the hill one set of every 5 games, but you might get to see him play DH and outfield. So considering that you get to see this guy play more routinely than other superstars, for example, Jeter, and he only got to hit 3 or 4 times a game, and he just played average defense, you know what I'm saying?
He's also younger too. Like, I'm pretty sure he's coming into the league younger than Tanaka did. I'm pretty sure he's younger than Darvish was when he entered the league. So
yeah, he's younger than Ichiro was by far. He's 23 years old, and first off, 23 years old is younger than most baseball players are when they go from the minor leagues or from the development leagues overseas to Major League Baseball. So he's already ahead of schedule compared to a lot of different prospects. And two, he's a rookie that is in the starting lineup for the Angels and in their rotation. Not only is that impressive considering the Angels are somewhat of a contender for the divisional crown or for the wild card, that's impressive because they've got a very stacked lineup. They've got a great outfield. They have one of the best infield defenses, and he's still cracking it and still being able to hit every single time he's penciled into the lineup.
I'm excited for this guy. That's really all I've got to say. I'm excited for the next decade of baseball with something unconventional tossed into the game. I think the Angels are in a weird kind of limbo where they're not really sure if they want to win now or if they're rebuilding. But at the very least, Ohtani's going to supply some fun baseball, and that's something the game has desperately needed for a while, like I said. And now you got guys like Puig and Trout, common household names in the baseball environment. But how do you say his first name? Shahani?
It's Shohei.
Shohei
Ohtani.
Shohei Ohtani is going to he's going to draw some eyes, and I think that's good for baseball. So I'm excited for it.
It's also good to have the game's best player in Mike Trout finally have some support around him.
Yes, he has a teammate for the first time in 6 years.
Mike Trout's 26 years old and already worth 50 WAR. He deserves to be playing on the biggest stage, and yet he's never won a postseason game before. He's only appeared in 3. He needs support. He needs help, and Ohtani is going to be that.
Here's a question I got for you, Tom. How does it feel to have already eliminated the Rangers from postseason contention on April 6th?
It feels two ways. One, I want the state of Texas to have both teams competing at the same time, with the Astros being somewhat of a super team, the defending champion. They've got the league MVP. They have the best shortstop, probably. I want Texas to have a rivalry that everyone likes to tune into, because it creates not only a good interstate rivalry, but it creates some sort of national appeal for a team like the Astros and a team like the Rangers that don't necessarily have it. So I want the Rangers to succeed, and it kind of stinks that they're essentially setting themselves up for failure. But at the same time, watching the Rangers win the pennant 2 years in a row early in the decade, while the Astros lost 324 games in a 3-year span, it was disheartening. It was awful to see my favorite franchise down in the dumps while their main rival succeeds, while their silver boot opponent is winning the pennant and, competing for a World Series every year with superstar players on their team. So to see the page kind of flipped a little bit it
feels good.
It's rewarding.
Yeah, it's understandable.
It's rewarding to me because I know that I stuck through the Astros when they were absolute garbage, and now they're great. And I can say, hey, you know what? I was a fan of the team when they lost 324 games in a 3-year span. I was a fan of the team when they won 51 games in 2012, and now they're good.
This kind of carries into what I've been eager to talk about, because you are from the Houston area. I am from the Dallas area, and this is undoubtedly the worst time in the entire history of Dallas sports existence to be a fan of all 4. I guess you could include 5 FC Dallas. All of the Dallas teams combined, really, with the exception of, I guess you could say, TCU and UNT. Their athletic programs both had pretty successful years. SMU didn't really do much. There's really no winning sports in Dallas right now. Everything is on the down low. The Mavs are tanking. The Stars just had the most epic regular season collapse in franchise history. As we discussed, the Rangers they're already out. it's April 6th, and they are all but eliminated from the playoffs, and nobody knows what the fuck the Cowboys are doing. So, Tom, I have to ask you, what Dallas sports team do you feel the most confident about right now in immediate winning? Because as far as I can tell, I really think the Mavs are probably going to be the best championship contender in the nearest time, and that's really surprising to a lot of people because they're one of the worst teams in the league. They're losing a lot of games. They're tanking. But they have a lot of potential in some of the younger guys like Dwight Powell, who I think Rick Carlisle has finally embraced the tank, which is something I was very much not looking forward to for a long time. He's a coach who coaches to win, obviously. And he's got a lot of guys who he was able to develop this year instead of starting guys like Sean Marion and Samuel Dallenberg and these one-off guys that just played for a year here, the one-year veterans. It's something the Mavs have relied on for a long time. But, now we got guys like Dwight Powell and Dennis Smith Jr., and I honestly am kind of optimistic for the future of the Mavericks. They're playing close games. I think they know for a fact that they need to be losing. So I've seen, I don't know what the exact stats are, but if you go look at their last, 12 games, I mean, every time they go into the third quarter with a lead and they lose by 8, it's perfect. It's the perfect way to tank. So that's my answer for the question I have proposed to you. Now I would like to know what your thoughts are.
I mean, I would happen to agree that if you're looking at the immediate 3, 5, 10-year future, that the Mavericks are probably best suited to succeed. Carlisle is obviously a great coach, and he's still relatively young, so he has his system in place. And like you said, Powell and Smith Jr. are great building blocks to build around. And if they get another higher pick, another lottery pick, potentially top 5 or so, they could have another piece that allows them to transition from standings dweller to a playoff contender as immediately as maybe a year or two. And considering how stacked the Western Conference is in terms of competitive teams being able to wreak havoc on the complete championship contenders, like in the Western Conference right now, teams 3 to 10 or 11 are only separated by 9 games. So if you have a team in the Western Conference that has youth and has a good coach and has, that locker room chemistry where everyone believes in one another, you can instantly compete. And with a high draft pick and with the youth that the Mavericks have already, they could be in a scenario where they're in another championship window like they were in for many of the Dirk years, basically in immediacy, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, the Cowboys are a huge question mark going into 2018-19 season. You don't really know what you're going to get from Dak Prescott, who had his struggles after a great season 2 years prior. You don't know what kind of Ezekiel Elliott you're going to get after all of his off-the-field issues that led to his demise on the field. Des Bryant, his scenario is a little tricky. That's another question mark. Their defense took a step back. So you really don't know what kind of Cowboys you're going to get until they play a couple games. Start to gel together. The Stars are in deep trouble because they don't draft and develop well at all. I mean, I can attest to that, having covered their American Hockey League team for the majority of the season. They don't draft and develop very well at all. The only premier players they have on their team that they drafted and developed are 2 fortuitous fifth-round selections that they got extremely lucky on, and everyone in the league recognizes that they got extremely lucky on. That's something that's not going to happen again. FC Dallas is still in a good spot. Major League Soccer is growing, so I think FC Dallas will be under more of a regional spotlight in DFW as time progresses and the other teams begin to fall apart. And the Rangers are more or less a laughing stock of the American League. So, I mean, I'm not completely concerned with them and their development right now. I think the Mavericks are the number 1 team to watch out for in the near future.
So this kind of sets up my next talking point, the Houston Rockets. Let's stick on the topic of basketball. All right. So this is going to be the first year. I'm not sure where they sit right now, but this could be the first year in what might be my entire lifetime, maybe your entire lifetime, without the Spurs in the playoffs. Are they currently sitting in a playoff position, Tom?
Right now they're 5th place. The only issue is that there are 3 teams that are currently tied with them for 5th place, and they're only a game up on 9th.
Right.
They've got 3 games remaining, and one of them's against New Orleans, who are also a playoff game. The other 2 are winnable games, in my opinion, but they're still in trouble, and they still need to be cautious regarding their playoff status and the streak of making the playoffs for 20 years in a row being at jeopardy.
What worries me is that we may have to deal with 2 cancerous Houston fan bases in 1 year. I am not confident that Golden State knocks off Houston in the Western Conference Finals, because there's not a team that is well-rounded enough to compete with those 2. I like Spurs-hitting teams like New Orleans, and I think if San Antonio's healthy, they have the roster to compete, but they're not healthy at all. Clippers don't really have anything. Really, the only 2 teams I see getting out of the West are Houston and Golden State. And as much as I appreciate James Harden as being the best ISO player in the league, I don't want to see him win a ring. I can't stand it. It's going to stab me over and over again in the heart until I can't take it anymore. Because
he's genuinely boring to watch. I
don't even know if I'd agree with that. And I severely dislike him as a player just because I'm a fan of a rival. But I don't know. I can't decide if he's like a GOAT in the current NBA or if he's just a really, really good scorer and nothing else. I don't really understand the MVP arguments for him, because as a team leader, I mean, he hasn't really done anything up to this point, and really, I'm not saying he hasn't done anything this year, but before this year, the Rockets were pretty well known across the league as playoff chokers. They have great regular seasons and then get to the playoffs and lose in the first and second round. And they added Chris Paul, who is notorious for the exact same thing. Clint Capella's having, I guess, a good year. Trevor Ariza, Gerald Green are all, contributors, but they've built a team around Harden, and all he does is score. So, I mean, do you think he's MVP worthy? Do you think that the Rockets are really the real deal, because they've won 62 games?
I think the Rockets are the real deal because they pose maybe the greatest threat to Golden State, and considering Golden State's recent issues with health, they've had to shut down Curry and Durant and Thompson recently. Even Draymond Green has been sat in favor of his health to prepare for the playoffs. I don't necessarily think it will be James Harden that is the sole reason why they make it to the NBA Finals and potentially win the championship again. But it's going to be a combination of guys that is going to allow them to take down Golden State if and when, essentially, they do meet in the Western Conference Finals. Harden as an MVP candidate is an interesting thing because, like you said, he's a very one-dimensional player. He's a pure scorer, a wonderful ball handler, but that's all he does. He's not very great in terms of assists. He's a decent rebounder, but I wouldn't put him in the upper echelon of rebounding guards. He's the best isolation player ever, in my honest opinion. There's nobody better than him in terms of one-on-one situations. But like I said, he is so unbelievably boring to watch. He's extremely predictable. It's, he carries the ball up. Him or Chris Paul, they carry the ball up. They give it to Harden. He takes the switch on the pick and roll with Capella. And then, boom, he has a mismatch. Everyone clears the floor for him. And he does what he does.
Exactly. Nobody can defend it.
Exactly. He's the best isolation player in the league. And he's making a case for the best ISO player ever. But I don't want to see him succeed. I don't want to see the Rockets on the big stage because I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch that boring, predictable style of gameplay.
It is a easy game plan to tap into for wins, and that's basically my point as well. Is I don't find anything exciting about the Rockets. I've never found Chris Paul to be an electrifying player. I think he fits the modern style of the NBA point guard very well, but nothing he does is particularly outstanding or innovative. He's a great passer, and I'll give him that, but I just don't know, man. I don't really love this Rockets team as a I don't know the right word. I don't enjoy watching them. Was what I'm saying. I agree with you. I think as much as you hate Golden State, they're electrifying to watch. As old as it gets, just watching them win every year, they've got the two best shooters in the league, in my opinion, on the same starting five. I guess you could say the three best shooters. Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry are, in my opinion, hands down the best three shooters in basketball. So, you can say that it's boring watching them win over and over again, but, the odds are we're just going to get those guys versus LeBron in the finals again, and that's it. That's you have to accept. I guess you just have to accept it. There's nothing we can do. We're all surrendering to the gods of basketball as they shove Warriors Cavs down our throats for a fourth straight year.
Yeah, I haven't watched enough of the Toronto Raptors to. First off, Boston has no shot without Irving or Hayward.
Yeah, no, Boston's done.
Yeah, I just haven't watched enough of Toronto. I haven't watched enough of them to really get a grip on how they could compete with the LeBron-led Cavaliers. Because LeBron's always that guy that can turn it up a notch in the postseason and play bully ball and storm his way through. So, if it's Rockets and Cavaliers in the finals, then I'll tune in to every single game and I'll love it. But to say that's the ideal matchup would probably be a lie.
Now, let me propose some underdogs here to you, Tom. There are some other teams in the league that I do believe at least have a bubbling chance of maybe winning a series, maybe getting their name out there, a team that's not a traditional power. Let me start with the Utah Jazz, okay? They've got the chance, and this is unforeseen in the modern NBA. They have a chance to propel their team in the playoffs led by a white guy named Joe.
That's true. This
has never happened before in basketball. It is possible. Joe Ingles, or however you say his last name, great small forward. Very fun player to watch. The Jazz have some very hideous uniforms, but I do believe that outside of the West, or out of the West, there are only hope. I don't, like I said, I don't believe in the Pelicans outside of Cousins and Davis. Rondo's not a good point guard. We need to just let him die. Let him die out. He's very much past his prime. But my Utah Jazz, I believe in Joe. Do you believe in Joe?
I believe in Joe. I believe in Rudy Gobert because, one, as a fan of the Spurs and watching LaMarcus Aldridge every night, I love teams that play from the inside out. I love teams that play with their center and their power forward first, and then guard plays second. So I like Rudy Gobert. Jonathan Mitchell's a great young player, an elite young player, and he's going to be a star in this league for 15 years. But, yeah, I would have to say the Jazz are probably the most underappreciated team heading into the playoffs because Portland's the number 3 seed in the East. You can't call them an underdog if they're the 3 seed. I wouldn't say Oklahoma City's an underdog with Paul George and Russell Westbrook, the defending MVP. So, yeah, the Jazz are probably the stealthy, sneaky team that you could see pulling off an upset in the first or second round, getting their name out there and preparing for the future.
I was going to toss OKC into the ring, but I have never bought into the theory that adding a bunch of elderly superstars to your roster helps out. Case in point, the Cavs this year. I like Melo. I think he's going to go down as one of the most underrated players in the league's history. He just got doomed to play for the Knicks for a large part of his career, and even then he was very loyal to that organization. Stuck through a lot of bullshit with different coaches and owners. So I have simply never bought into the theory that adding a player in his early 30s, mid-30s who hasn't really had the chance to win, but will do it now. Like I said, the Cavs tossed Derrick Rose onto their team this year. Dwayne Wade's won in the past, obviously, but he's still an electrifying player. He still has some gas left in the tank, but he's not quite the player he was in 2011. So the OKC Thunder are basically Russell Westbrook and his friends at this point. Paul George is Paul George, but I have always said that Russell Westbrook is, in my opinion, the best all-around player in the league. I don't think there's a player who does as many things as well as he does in the NBA, including LeBron. I love LeBron. I will go to bat for him every day, but Russell Westbrook's my day one, and I think he is undoubtedly the MVP, or should be the shoo-in for MVP every year. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about OKC. They've proven time and again every year that unless Russell Westbrook and I guess Kevin Durant when he was on the roster, unless they have those two guys, they don't really ever have the bench to carry them through the playoffs. Out of the East, I like Toronto. I think they've kind of quietly had an amazing season. Nobody really seems to be talking about them. And, I mean, DeMar DeRozan's awesome. They've got some fun young players. Kyle Lowry, I think, is entering his late 20s, early 30s, but, I mean, he's been thoroughly consistent as a scorer throughout his career. I don't know. I mean, the Wizards always kind of seem to pop up. I'm not confident in any of these teams. I do have faith in Joe, but I can't see it being anything other than Rockets or Warriors versus the Cavs. It seems set up at this point. So, you want to switch over to the NHL? Talk about that for a couple minutes.
Yeah, we're gonna have to actually probably we should enter some sort of a lightning round format where we just discuss some shit for maybe 60 seconds at a time. We have a few subjects that we need to get to prior to your departure.
Yes, we do. I've got about 5 to 10 minutes left, so we should definitely go with the lightning round concept. I like it.
All right. You can think of anything. We'll discuss it for maybe 60 seconds at a time.
Okay. Here's something I want to talk about. Vegas's odds in this playoffs.
Vegas is a team that looks to me like they've been ready to regress all season long, but they've proved me wrong the entire time. So as a number one seed in probably the easiest division in the league, I expect them to get to the Western Conference Finals and lose to one of Winnipeg or Nashville on their quest to the Stanley Cup Final. Nonetheless, it's the most successful expansion franchise in the history of sports by a mile.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I think the Pacific has definitely had a down year. As a Stars fan, I am bummed they didn't make the playoffs, but this team has been an easy number 2 to root for. Like you said, they went 5 goalies deep into injuries this year. Didn't hurt them. They just kept winning. They don't have any primary superstars. They're led by James Neal and Cody Eakin, the likes of which, not especially elite players, but they know how to win.
Yeah.
They're doing it. It's really the definition of a Cinderella run. There's really no two ways to look at it other than this team is special. They're very likable, and obviously with what happened in Vegas in October, they should be easy to root for. So, if you're a hockey fan, I would suggest pulling for Vegas in the Western Conference. You got a lightning round topic you want to shoot up here? We can go back and forth.
Let's just go with some fucking shit. Let's talk about some MLB standings and obviously MLB opening week. It's come and passed. Are there any teams to you that point out going forward as World Series contenders, division titles, some underdog guys?
Diamondbacks ain't fucking around. They had a good first week. I stayed up to watch them go to 15 innings with the Dodgers the other night. It's the first week of the season. Baseball is the longest regular season of any sport, so I try not to jump to any conclusions really until June. Once June and July and the All-Star break roll around, I can kind of get a sense of how I feel about teams heading into October. But I don't know. I am as a fan of the sport of baseball, I have about 10 favorite teams. There's so many likable rosters in the league this year. I think the whole booing, like the Yankees fans booing their players over striking out a couple times is stupid. They've got the 3 best home run hitters in the game, or at least 2 right now, and they're likable. So I mean, the Yankees are fun to watch. I don't know. I mean, the Astros are the same team they were last year, just, a bunch of ragtag players who have upped the ante of size does not matter, especially Jose Altuve. That guy is fun as hell to watch. I am so glad he's in my division, even if he's on a team I don't necessarily like. Dodgers are slipping a little bit behind. The Cubs are slipping a little bit behind. I mean, there's not one team that really stands out to me. The one team I am keeping my eye on this year is the Nats. They are living up to the storied DC tradition of having great regular seasons and bounced in the playoffs in 1 or 2 rounds. This is Bryce Harper's last year. Like, he's out of there after this season. So yeah. I really would like to keep my eye on the Nats and see if they can do something special. They have an incredibly easy division. The Braves are ass. The Mets are fine, I guess. The Mets at best will contend for a wild card spot. The Marlins are I have never seen a dumpster fire the likes of the Marlins. They did not have a fire sale. They had a
home robbery, dude. People just came in and stole their shit.
They had the Great Chicago Fire of fire sales. This is they have nothing. They have absolutely nothing left. Derek Jeter has completely uprooted that team, and I don't know. The NL East is just absolute crap. It's crap, and the Nats should breeze to 95 to 100 wins. They've got a good pitching staff led by Max Scherzer. They've got, like I said, Bryce Harper in his undoubtedly last year as a national. This is it. This is their last year to compete. The division is down. It's do or die.
Yeah, the Nats are a team that I'm looking out for, but like you said, I want to reiterate back to Arizona. They're 7-1 to start the season, and they haven't been playing against shit teams either. They swept the Dodgers. They won 3 out of 4 against Colorado. These are divisional rivals that they're kicking ass against, and they're doing it without Paul Goldschmidt playing well. He has like 2 hits all season long. The MVP finalist from the prior season, he finished 3rd in the MVP voting in 2017, and he has just absolutely ate shit. But they're still succeeding. They're still getting contributions from everyone, and they're a team to look out for, especially in a really tough National League West.
I would agree with that. Let's move on to what else we got here. I see you mentioned that I'm into pop culture. So are there any pop culture questions you would like to ask me? Any of my hot opinions, particularly about movies? Movies are my specialty.
Well, here's the thing. I have a lot of problems with Ready Player One, and I see that you called it an all right movie. The entire precedent of the movie is the viewer's ability to recognize shit. How is that a plot line? How do you write a script around the thought of just, well, if we put some old references to bullshit 80s stuff, people will like it?
No, I wanted to give it the same critique. However, I have not read the book, so I don't know if that was taken from the book or if that was Steven Spielberg just, I don't know, jerking off to old 80s references. I really have no idea. I thought visually, the visuals in the movie were enough to give it, at least a 4 or 5 out of 10. It was visually one of the best movies I've seen in years. The CGI wasn't convincingly real, but I don't think it was supposed to be. It was supposed to kind of look like a video game, and on that end, it was just spectacular. I loved watching it with my eye holes, but the plot was, the writing was bad, the acting was fine. I don't get into movies that have a shit ton of callback references or hey, look at me moments. That's kind of what's turned me off to Star Wars. It's turned me off to Marvel. I can't get excited for those movies anymore. I've lost the ability to be even remotely hyped for any of them. But I'm glad you asked me about Ready Player One, because I went to see it the other night, and like I said, visually it stuck in my head. Like there's some shots in that movie that I just can't forget about. But I don't think I'll be seeing it again. I have very mixed feelings about it. Do you have any problems with the Oscars? I know the Oscars like a month behind us now, but do you have any problems with anything that won like Best Picture or anything?
I don't watch a whole lot of movies, but I saw Get Out and I thought it was outstanding. I didn't see The Shape of Water, but I just like the thought of a sci-fi movie winning Best Picture. I just like the thought of like something that someone could just come up with in their head, like in the dark, in the middle of the night, and then write about probably the most prestigious award in motion pictures. So I just think that I care not about the movie. I don't care about the director or what happened in the movie, but I just enjoy the thought of something that you can just like accidentally come up with winning Best Picture.
All right, Tom, we are out of time, but I would like to propose something here. We've got the NFL draft in a few weeks, so whenever we get around to doing this next, we absolutely need to talk about this because it's actually, in my opinion, one of the more important NFL drafts in recent years. Cleveland Browns coming off an amazing offseason, signing Tyrod Taylor. They're still, at least as far as I know, going after OBJ. I believe they picked up Sammy Watkins, if I'm getting the name right. I'm not sure. Right. Yeah, he's Brown? Yeah, cool. They've got Corey Coleman, Josh Gordon, great receiving core. Their defense is starting to build up. Jabril Peppers and Myles Garrett. They've got some big playmakers. I'm excited for the Browns for once. I think they actually have an exciting team. And they have the number 1 pick. And there's a lot of really good draft prospects in this draft. So we should absolutely talk about this next time. Do you have any last comments or words for this first episode?
I'm going to get to what you wanted me to get, and then we can go, because I'm outside and sweating my ass off.
What's up?
So I went to baseballreference.com last night, and I discovered that their database is completely, it's incomplete. And that's fine, because baseballreference.com is an exhaustive resource of baseball shit that I use every single day.
Yes.
What they do to compile old statistics for old players is sometimes they just get to type in their last name or their nickname, because that's all they have on some ratty old program that was written 100 years ago that nobody even looks at. So I searched some of my favorite players in the history of baseball last night, and I posted them on my Snapchat story, and I'm going to read all of them off. You have the bats unknown and throws unknown player whose name is Beer. You have an outfielder, his name is Butts. That's the only submission for him. First base, outfielder and catcher from relatively nearby Nacogdoches, Texas. He played in the 1980s and 90s. His name is Peanut Williams.
Awesome. I love it.
There's one guy whose just name is Hair. That guy's a necessary asset for any contender. There's Justin Sportsman. That is my superhero name, is Sportsman. There's Beard. He probably plays with Hair. He and Hair are a double play combination. Hair and Beard. There's Win. That is obviously a big selling factor in most Major League Baseball teams. Just a guy whose name is Win. He can really help your team. There's a guy whose name is Winner. He's not a loser. He's a winner. There's Clarence Henry Rowland, whose nickname is Pants. I don't know why. I don't know who gave him the nickname Pants, but his submission in Baseball Reference's database is just as Pants.
Just Pants, yes.
There's Richard King, who they call Tiger, so his name is Tiger King. I really wouldn't want to fuck with that guy. He's the Tiger King.
Tiger King sounds like a guy you would not want to get into a bar fight with.
There are 5 Bob Johnsons, which I think is awesome. Bob Johnson is such a common name that there are 5 of them in the history of Major League Baseball. There is a guy whose name is Lord.
Don't forget Boog Powell, my favorite current Major League Baseball player.
If I didn't know anything about Boog Powell, he would probably be on this list. There's Cheese Anderson. He's a pitcher and a right fielder. It doesn't have a full name for him, so as far as I know, his first name is literally Cheese. It's Cheese Anderson. There's Paul Nice. the nicest player there is.
Yes.
He had 69 hits in his career. There's Kraken, not with the G's, it's Kraken. His ball's really cracking off his bat. There's Bob Box. His last name is Box. He's a catcher, which is important to remember because as a kid, I used to just throw against a box and pretend that the box was a catcher, so I guess a box is a catcher, really. There's Face. That's just his whole name. He's Face. There's Burger. And there's Oil Can Boyd. His first name is Oil Can.
Ah, yes. Oil Can Boyd.
All right, that's going to be it for my baseball reference finds. If you have any sign-off, then I'll let you take it.
That was an excellent sign-off. That was just, like, that whole bit was the best way we could end this thing.
Maybe for recurring episodes, I should just go on Baseball Reference some more and find some more stupid-ass names.
Whoa, that was my phone. Yes, thank you to Baseball Reference for the sponsorship, for the support of this undying podcast.
When we post it, I'm gonna have to credit Baseball Reference for their support, though not deliberately supporting our podcast. They really have.
They're the only reason we're doing this. Without it, we'd have nothing to go off of. We'd have no knowledge of baseball whatsoever. I have nothing else to add here, Tom. Are you satisfied?
Yeah, that's it. That's the first episode of the Church of Klingberg. I hope our readers or listeners, that is, will be satisfied with our creation.
I would also like to add that Kraken, the baseball player, played for the Cocoa Indians. That is his only stat that I can find. He played one game and had no at-bats. So,
Kraken, maybe that's why his submission is so incomplete. They don't know anything about him.
Rest in peace, Kraken.
I guess I'm sorry, Kraken.
He's probably dead. I mean, his only year playing was 1954. So I'm just gonna assume he's not alive. So
yeah, maybe he was like a 20-year-old rookie though. Maybe he's still kicking it.
That could be true. I feel like we should find this out. We'll have more information on it in episode 2. Tom,
all right,
Tom, I'm going to hang up now. I hope you have a sincerely wonderful day. I hope all of your baseball dreams come true. And here's to the Rockets losing in the first round of the playoffs.
All right. Goodbye, Carter. Thank you for recording the podcast. And I hope that I leave you to record once again as Ohtani hits 3 more home runs and gets 2 more wins. Bye.
Bye.